Hello, good morning, and welcome back to the Arcane Forge, and to day 29 of the Drawtober challenge, an illustration challenge where I try and draw every single day throughout the month of October, and by goodness, we are succeeding. We're so close to that finish line, guys. For the 29th day of October, which I can't believe has come in so bloody quickly. The prompt word is bind. You can see on screen there are my randomly generated prompt words, which are the inspiration for each drawing I do each day throughout October. Like I say, today's is bind, and I had a lot of fun with this one. So why don't we just get started with today's video? Et voila! So for this one, it was actually quite self-indulgent because recently, on one of my many YouTube rabbit holes, I don't know about you, but I tend to watch YouTube videos and then I'll end up just sort of going deeper and deeper into weirder and more obscure stuff. I've become a little bit obsessed with like the lock-picking lawyer, for example, having absolutely no interest in ever picking a lock. But it has actually helped me describe more of what my party's rogue gets up to when they are trying to pick a lock, I suppose. That kind of thing. You know, when you end up it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, you're like, why on earth am I watching a bunch of people building a swimming pool? I'm in Scotland, I'm never going to want a swimming pool, you know? It's freezing here. That kind of thing. Well, on one of those random rabbit hole dives, I found myself finding a lot of channels who were describing how you bind books. And it's something that it's something that I've wanted to do. Not necessarily sort of professionally bind something, but maybe make my own sketchbooks, or, you know, I have a lot of friends who are artists or writers and all this kind of stuff. So at some point I've imagined sort of trying to make, you know, sketchbooks or things like that for these people as gifts, maybe for Christmases or birthdays or whatever. You know, maybe my D&D party, maybe they could have notebooks or whatever, that kind of thing. So I'm always curious about bookbinding, although it does seem like an absolutely monumental feat. But I found myself watching sort of how books, you know, those traditional sort of leather-bound books were, and still to this day in some places are made. And it got me thinking about how wizards have their own spell books. And we're told in the player's handbook rather, that this process requires gold and materials and time to make. You know, making a book takes a lot of time. And it requires further sort of materials and time and money to copy spells into this book. Totally understandable. But I always wondered sort of, what does the process of a wizard making a spell book look like? Do they physically bind the book themselves? Do they buy a book and then enchant it, or, you know, whatever? There are a lot of different options, whether they're physically touching it or not. And so I thought, why don't I have a go at drawing how I might imagine that process going, at least for one particular wizard. Maybe every wizard does it differently. Maybe that's the secret. So I thought I'd draw this wizard here, accomplishing that feat, and I've kind of broken up the illustration into various elements where certain parts of bookbinding kind of takes place. So with this character's right hand, they are casting a kind of ritual, enchanting runes into the air, that I imagine either follows a very methodical kind of process, or is the reason that these various elements, the book and all of its pages and so on, are floating effortlessly into the air, meaning that they can kind of do this on the fly without needing necessarily to sit in a studio and so on and craft all of these things at a workbench. But next to their arm on the left there, you can see that there are a few loose pages where a book kind of starts, and then they are bound, they are curled into these kind of like magazine-sized folders of paper and sewn together into little groups of books. Once they are sewn together, they're kind of have their backs glued together into one, well, I mean the essence of what we'll be reading, you know. But these little magazine-sized folders need to be constructed first. So right next to this character's arm, I have this big pot of glue here, which is being magically drawn towards a brush, which is laying down a few sort of layers of this stuff on the inside of this floating book cover, this very ornate-looking leather book cover. I made sure to have like a looking glass, a kind of magnifying glass meets a monocle type thing, floating next to this character's eye, so they can see in minute detail what's going on with this process. Every part of it perfectly calculated. And to the right of it there as well, you'll see like a little, well, it's hard to describe, but I learned that all these sort of magazine-like folders of paper, essentially, when they're sort of glued together and sewn together, are somewhat fastened by little curved pieces of bone, usually plastic, sometimes wood, that make up almost like a rib cage or a spine for this book to give it a lot more support. And they're wrapped in colourful threads and affixed to the backs of these kind of magazines, and that's what gives you the spine of the book. So I had kind of like a completed, or at least half of this book going into this leather cover here, as this wizard meticulously focuses on it. I wonder if this is the chance that wizards have to kind of enchant the pages or the bindings of their book, maybe some secret thing that they have to work out themselves. If they make it themselves, they can enchant the glue in order to make the pages stick together if someone's trying to read it who doesn't have the same kind of magical signature as the creator of the book or something. Maybe the pages cause ink to dance around or disappear completely if someone other than the intended user reads it, or maybe it just jumbles it into a strange language that only the wizard themselves can read. How does your paranoid wizard, if you've ever played one, come up with a method to deter intruders or stop people from stealing or reading your books? I feel like the construction of a wizard's tome, like while they're making it, is kind of the best time to do that. But yeah, I've always been curious about what this process looks like, and I really wanted to just imagine it. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed day 29 and my attempt to show someone binding a book with the prompt word bind. It's a far more peaceful illustration than a lot of them so far. I like these little slices of life. That's always my kind of favourite thing. I'm not really into big battles and huge conflicts and bloody scenes of onslaught in my fantasy literature, in my sci-fi and whatever. Although obviously combat does come into my storytelling, I am most interested in how weird and wonderful things fit into everyday life, I guess. I like detective stories. I like making my players go and hunt down clues, solve puzzles, and deal with how the magic of their world intersects the mundane and what we know in our world. So magical bookbinding really fits into that quite well. Anyway, I hope you had a good time today. We're very, very close to the end, guys. We can do this 2 more days. So if you've kept up with me so far, then well done. I look forward to seeing your efforts and seeing you back here for day 30 and the prompt word acid. But until tomorrow, I hope you have a fantastic day. Goodbye, guys.